the lady in the sparkling is 30 seconds. Your 30 seconds when you hold that up. 30 seconds when you hold that up.
Good evening. We all set now? I think we are.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me okay? Yes. Always wave your hand if you suddenly say the microphones aren't working for some reason. Good evening. My name is Olivia Thorne, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Delaware County. And I'd like to start by welcoming everyone to the Delaware County Council, Delaware County Council, the Court of Common Pleas, I did that last week, the Court of Common Pleas debate, forum, and sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Delaware County. Thank you for coming to learn more about the candidates and their views and ideas regarding the judicial process and all. The League is nonpartisan. It's a political organization, which means we neither support or oppose candidates, but tend to be vocal when it comes to issues. We're dedicated to ensuring that all eligible voters have the opportunity and information to exercise their right to vote. And one of the ways that you can do this afterwards is that you can go to vote411.org and type in your address, and you'll be able to find out about the candidates. And I think all of you have put up information, but if somebody's missing, please get to me before you leave tonight, and I'll make sure you know how to do it. Now I'd like to thank Cabrini College for hosting this forum and videoing this event, and Kathy Youngman especially, thank you very much, so it can be viewed by others who could not be with us tonight. It's important that all parties and individuals know the video of this meeting may not be used for partisan political advantage. The complete video will be posted on our website, LWV-CDC.org, and LWV-Delco-PA.org. I would also like to introduce Jamie Mogul, League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania board member, who is going to be is from Montgomery County, and she's going to be our moderator this evening, and she's now going to explain all the rules. But before we do it, I want to just point one other thing that you can put on your calendars if you don't have enough to do. A final debate between the candidates for Delaware County District Attorney is scheduled to be held this Sunday, October 27th, in the lecture hall, which is right here, at Cabrini University, from 6 to 7 p.m. It will be moderated by Steve Highsmith, and we hope you can do that, and I would assume that will also be videoed? Yes, so you'll be able to find it online, and it will be on the same websites that I mentioned to you before. So thank you very much for coming tonight, and now for the rules.
Thank you. Did you take any of my paper? Hi, thank you for coming. First, I'll just say I did it myself. If you just silence your phone. I know it's not the movies, but it's still exciting. So welcome. Yes, my name is Jamie Mogul. I'm a state board member. I'm vice president of government and social policy for the state board. I'd like to thank all of the candidates. It's no small feat to run for office, and we very much appreciate it. All the candidates have received and agreed to the program for tonight. That's very important. They all understand the rules, the timing. We have two lovely timers at the front here, and I'd ask, of course, that all the candidates please stick to the timing, because I don't want to have to be that person to say it's time to move on. Also, if you could please hold your applause till the complete end of the program, just so that we have a nice flow. We want to clap for all of them, but it just helps us move along as we proceed. And then, let's see if I got everything. There's a timer. Got that. And each of the candidates will have an opening statement. We'll start with the Democrats, and we'll be moving out from the center. That's with respect to ballot position. Each of them will have a minute and a half, and then we'll be moving on to Republicans, the same. Each will have a minute and a half for opening statements, and then we'll go to questions. And I have two more lovely individuals who will help me screen the questions that you all have written and answered. Just a bit of also additional news. As you come down and exit, we have some programs going on Fortunately for the League, we have all these great informational programs for you. One is about criminal justice. That will be on Saturday, November 2nd from 9:30 to 12:30. There's a flyer down here. Looks like a fabulous program in Swarthmore. And then we also have some about the Department of Health, some information for you. And then tomorrow night, if you all are interested in Easttown, I myself will be on a panel about Marcy's Law. I think somebody has already asked a question tonight about it, and I will be on behalf of the League, and then there will be a representative from Marcy's Law for PA. That's at 7:30 Easttown Township Municipal Building. All right, well, let's get to it. We're still a little after time. And I think we start first with Nusrat Rashid. Am I? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just explain this. The yellow goes up at 30, we have 30 seconds left. We'll hold up the yellow.
Yellow, 30 seconds, and red? Red means stop. Okay. So we're going to start with the opening statements, and we begin with the Democrats from the middle out, and I believe, and correct me if I'm, Nusrat, are you first? Did I pronounce that correctly? Nusrat Rashid. Okay, thank you. You're first.
Upholding the rule of law is a serious responsibility, requiring people who are prepared to do serious work. My name is Nusrat Rashid, and for over 2 decades, I have been moving justice forward for my clients and providing equal access to the law. Over 20 years working in the criminal, civil, and family law divisions, I've developed high levels of dispute resolution, therapeutic case planning skills, empathy and cultural sensitivity, and a practical know-how of the courtrooms in Delaware County. To me, being a judge is more than just the words, fair and impartial. Values, character, qualifications matter more than just words. We need people who are serious about making change, about moving justice forward for the benefit of all of the citizens of Delaware County. Delaware County has a lot of needs. It also has a lot of challenges and strengths. We need people on the bench who are ready to bring restorative justice, mediation, changes to the juvenile justice system, all for the benefit of the citizens. I pledge to you more than words of fairness and impartiality. I pledge to you that I will work every single day to make just outcomes, fair outcomes, and to move justice forward for all of our residents. Thank you.
And next, Stephanie Klein.
Oh, I didn't realize. I thought we were going back and forth. Okay. First, I'd like to thank the League for arranging this forum. I'd like to thank you all for coming here tonight to listen to this conversation about the courts and about our qualifications and experience. My name is Stephanie Klein, and for 18 years, I had the honor of serving as the magisterial district judge for Media, Swarthmore, and Nether Providence. What did that work entail? I heard criminal cases, I heard civil cases, I considered petitions for protection from abuse, and I dealt with juveniles. Over my 18 years, I heard over 10,000 cases, hearings, and trials. Before that, I was a legal aid attorney in the city of Chester, helping our poor citizens obtain legal representation from volunteer attorneys. I also served another 5 years as a legal aid attorney, representing veterans, the unemployed, and the disabled at administrative hearings and in federal and state court. I believe that my experience, my qualifications, and my passion to make sure that everybody has their fair day in court qualifies me for this position, and I look forward to explaining that to you further in this forum. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. We'll continue on, and we go to Kathy Eckel.
Hi.
Oh, Kelly. So
all right.
sorry. Very important to get the name right.
I'm going to move this over. Thank you very much. Thank you to the League. Thank you to everyone for being here this evening. My name is Kelly Eckel. I'm a partner at a large law firm practicing civil litigation. I've been there for 22 years. I've practiced all over the nation, in state court, federal court, alternative dispute resolution forum, handling all sorts of different civil cases. You name the type of civil case, I've probably handled it. Here in Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Missouri, Florida, I've been in many places to practice law. Perhaps because of the breadth of my litigation experience, in 2010, I was invited to serve as an arbitrator for the American Arbitration Association. In that capacity, I preside over cases that are filed in that forum, and those cases travel from point of filing to trial and everything in between. Some cases go for 3 months, some cases go for over a year, depending on complexity. I make rulings, I hear testimony, I review post-trial briefs, and I issue awards. I've done that for 10 years. Finally, personally, I live in Upper Providence Township. I've lived there for almost 20 years. Not a lifelong Delaware County resident because my father served this country for 30 years. I've lived and studied and worked all over the nation and abroad. And from that personal experience, I believe I have a unique appreciation for the differences among our community. And Delaware County is truly a microcosm of the country that I have traveled in my life, and I look forward to serving the county. Thank you.
And last, Rick Lowe.
Thank you. My name is Rick Lowe. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the League for hosting this. Briefly, my background, I've been a lawyer for 37 years, mostly dealing in the construction industry, often in Delco, with projects in Delco. I have been an arbitrator and a mediator like Kelly for more than 10 years. I love trying to bring people together and resolve problems. That's one reason I want to be a judge. In addition to my professional work, I've also been the mayor of Swarthmore, and that led me to join Mayors Against Illegal Guns. I joined that the day after I became mayor in 2010. And that led me to Graterford Prison, where for 5 years I've been a volunteer, mostly with lifers. I want to be a judge because, number one, I really enjoy trying to bring people together in a fair process, either in court or in trying to settle cases. It gives me a great deal of satisfaction to do that. Number two, we have a chance for an historic effort here. Right now, there are 20 Republicans on the bench and 0 Democrats. And the 4 of us are asking you to elect the 4 of us to bring balance to the court. It's that simple. And number 3, as we all have worked so hard, my colleagues and I, to meet people around this county, we see how important it is to bring innovation and new ideas and have the courage to move forward. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll now move to the Republicans, and we'll start from the middle out, and with Steve Gerber first.
Good evening. My name is Steve Gerber. Thank you very much for having me.
If you can move the microphone.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Steve Gerber. Thank you very much for having me. Electing judges should be about qualifications, courtroom experience, integrity, and impartiality. It should not be about party affiliation. I've been deemed well qualified by a plurality of the members of the Delaware County Bar Association who responded substantively to the bar plebiscite, as have the 3 individuals to my left. I've been rated AV by the National Lawyer Rating Service Martindale-Hubbell. AV is the highest rating. I've been a trial lawyer and litigator for 27 years. I'm a member of my firm, where my practice is focused in property loss litigation. I most recently tried a case in August for almost 2 weeks, which I'm glad to say I won. I grew up in the Delaware Valley, taught school between college and law school, then attended law school at William & Mary before joining my firm. I've practiced throughout the Northeast quadrant of the United States and appeared before countless judges, and I will say never once has the party affiliation of a judge or any of the lawyers appearing before the judge ever come up. It's not pertinent. Doesn't belong in the courtroom. I serve this community here in Radnor as, is that 90 seconds? Or is that, okay. Okay, thank you.
We'll have more time when you have questions. We'll go ahead next to George Dawson.
Thank you, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight, and thank you for all coming out and showing that this is something that's important. And like Steve said, unfortunately, the process to be a judge is political, but the job is anything but. This is about people, this is about their qualifications. I have been practicing law in Delaware County for 20 years. Not once has a client ever asked me what my party was. Not once has a judge ever asked me what my party was. Last year when I got the NAACP award from the Chester branch of the NAACP, named after Robert A. Wright, the Freedom Award, no one ever asked me what party I was. People go for quality representation. People go for people that know what they're doing in this process. I have practiced in civil law. I am uniquely qualified in criminal law. I did 13 years as a defense attorney and the last 7 years as a prosecutor. I am in charge of the Anti-Violence Task Force for Delaware County, which its focus is on illegal guns. I also am committed to public service. I've spent the last 13 years on the Ridley School Board. In 2014, I was appointed by the governor to the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. Also committed community service. I coach in my community, both football and basketball for more than 2 decades. Appreciate your time tonight, and I look forward to giving you more information about my qualifications.
Next is Wendy Roberts.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Wendy Roberts. I am the magisterial district judge in the western part of Delaware County. I have served in that capacity for over 5 years. I handle criminal preliminary hearings, search warrants, requests for protection from abuse orders, traffic matters, and truancy matters. Prior to my appointment to the bench in 2014, I was a criminal defense lawyer in Delaware County, handling mostly nonviolent crimes and helping Delaware County families retrieve their driver's licenses from PennDOT for people who had been suspended. I have appeared in every courtroom in Delaware County, Chester County, and Montgomery County, and many courtrooms in Philadelphia and Bucks County. I have appeared in court thousands of times, and I believe that all of those experiences I have managed to distill into a respectful, efficient courtroom with compassion, listening to everyone who comes into court, making sure that they have their fair hearing and they feel that they are heard. It is those qualities that I intend to take with me to the Court of Common Pleas bench, and I look forward to explaining more about why I believe that I am qualified to be a Common Pleas judge for Delaware County. Thank you.
Okay. And last, Beth Naughton Beck.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Beth Naughton Beck, and I have been a trial attorney since 1991, trying cases across the state, varying in levels from magisterial district judge through to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. About 15 years ago, I added municipal law to my practice, and I currently represent Upper Providence Township and Aston Township. And in that capacity, I'm exposed to a variety of issues ranging from employment, labor relation, land development, ordinances. I've successfully negotiated 2 collective bargaining agreements with the Fraternal Order of Police. I recently have received the endorsement from the FOP Lodge 27 and the State Troopers Association, which is very meaningful to me considering the relationships I've had with them over the years. I am married. I live in Wallingford with my husband and 3 children, and as my children have grown, I've become more and more involved in a number of charitable organizations across the county. This has given me a wonderful opportunity to meet individuals and become part of organizations from different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I think that this experience and that the relationships I've formed, along with significant courtroom experience that I have, make me a uniquely qualified candidate to serve on the Court of Common Pleas in Delaware County.
Thank you. All right, well, now we'll be heading into the questions, and thank you all for writing some great questions. I've been looking at them. And for the question portion, just to repeat, we'll go, and you all have reviewed the program, but each speaker will have a minute, and we have our timers. And again, the same rules with the yellow card giving you, so half your time. So you had a minute and a half prior for your opening. So you have a minute, and then the red card, again, means stop. So we'll start first. The first question will be for Nusrat Rashid, and then Steve Gerber. So we'll be going two as we go out. So the first question goes to diversity and character. Please describe yourself. Please describe your firsthand experiences, if any, dealing with people who are different from you socially, economically, or politically.
Sure, that's a great question. Representing people who are involved in the criminal justice system as well as the child welfare system, I meet a lot of people who suffer from many of the things that plague our community today, such as undiagnosed and untreated mental health, drug addiction problems, homelessness. These are people who don't live in the same area that I live in. They may not have gone to college. They may not have intact families. And it's very important as a trial lawyer and eventually as a trial judge to be able to be sensitive to their needs, to their challenges, and their strengths. And I've done that for many years. For over 20 years, I've represented people who come from different places than me. It's very important for trial judges to understand that everyone has a place in our justice system and should have equal access to the law regardless of where they come from. You have to be sensitive to that. In order to be sensitive to that, you should have some experience in that, dealing with people who just are not like you. And that's where diversity and balance on the court comes from, a certain level of cultural sensitivity and cultural connectivity.
And follow-up, Steve Gerber.
Diversity in character is important, and it leads into the concept of implicit bias, which I think is a real thing that people need to be sensitive to, but at the same time recognize that in a courtroom you need to follow the rule of law. In my experience, I've served on both as a pro bono volunteer and on the board of the Homeless Advocacy Project in Philadelphia, where you're dealing with the homeless population, which is a very different population than what we have in this room and what we have here. It's also served as a pro bono volunteer for the Senior Law Center, and together with Stephanie Klein, served on the Delaware County Bar Association's pro bono and legal services for the poor community. In my practice, which involves property damage litigation, you see all sorts of folks and all sorts of property and all sorts of property damage, and also whether it be personal property, private business property. You deal with the public sector in terms of firefighters and folks involved in that sort of thing. Thank you.
Next, question 2, and this will be first for George Dawson, and then will be followed time for Stephanie Klein. The question is, violent crime, particularly youth violence, is perceived to be at crisis level by many experts today. What, if any, do you believe is the appropriate role for the judiciary in addressing this perceived crisis?
Excuse me, Jamie, I didn't hear the whole question.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Violent crime, particularly youth violence, is perceived to be at a crisis level by many experts today. What, if any, do you believe is the appropriate role for the judiciary in addressing this perceived crisis?
Thank you for that question. I also serve as a solicitor in the Chester Upland School District, and I also spent 13 years doing defense work, and a lot of that was with juveniles. And I understand that there is a lot of underlying issues in these communities and throughout the whole county which need to be addressed. The mental health issues, I believe that if you affect the diversionary programs that you have out there, because these kids need rehabilitation, not punishment. And you must address the underlying issues, whether it's mental health, whether it's an incarcerated parent, whether it is a drug-addicted parent. There's a lot of issues, and I believe that once that's addressed, we can start to get to the heart of the problem. We can also get to cutting down the violence based on being able to address those underlying issues.
Thank you. Stephanie Klein?
I think that that's a really
Bring it
great
closer.
question. Oh, I'm sorry. I think that George has addressed some of the issues, but I think that we need to go into the communities and address the issues that lead to violence among young people. We have families that have suffered trauma from mental health issues, from substance abuse, from incarceration of a parent that have really not been properly addressed. The impact of those things on those children. We have children who are growing up with amazing adverse childhood experience scores, which, if untreated, will lead to mental health issues on their part, substance abuse issues, physiological changes, neurological changes, and possibly entering into the criminal justice system. So I think that judges, of course, need to adjudicate fairly and properly in the courts, but I also think judges have an opportunity to go into the schools to talk to students and have an impact on youth in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start first with Kelly Eckel, which will then be followed by time for Wendy Roberts. As a prospective judge, what do you consider your greatest strength and weakness? Describe both.
Well, as a prospective judge, I consider my greatest strength my ability to listen and to understand, try to understand the entire person or persons before me, not to prejudge them based on whether I know their counsel or whether you have counsel at all. I listen very carefully. I then study what the law says after a fair hearing, and I say this from my experience as an arbitrator, which I've done for 10 years. My greatest weakness, that's a tough one, right? Everyone has weaknesses, but I'm not sure I could, that's tough. What's that? Jelly donuts?
Okay.
I'm not sure. But I truly believe that appreciation for the differences among communities and the willingness to hear the different stories that impact why people are coming before me is the most important thing that a judge can do.
Thank you. Okay. Wendy Roberts?
Thank you. I would say that my greatest strength is my ability to put my personal beliefs aside and consider a case based upon what is presented to me. And I agree with Kelly that it's important that you try to get a sense of the total person. It is my goal to treat everyone in my courtroom currently with respect, to make sure I have as much information as the law allows me to have, and then consider all of the options that judges have. Delaware County is full of programs that are available to deal with things such as mental health, drug and alcohol addiction, broken families. However, you need to know how to access those programs in order to take advantage of them, and I feel that I am a judge who insists on educating herself with regard to those things. On the other hand, I would say that my greatest weakness is also somewhat of a strength. I sometimes have to take a moment to think about what I'm doing, but more importantly, I sometimes am teary-eyed when I'm making a decision that the law requires me to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next question first will be for Beth Naughton Beck, followed by Rick Lowe. And the question is, the court system has a number of special courts, drug court, veterans court, juvenile courts. Could you explain them, and do you think they work well?
That's a really good question. There's a number of courts. I know one of them you didn't mention is a Second Chance Court, which it's been around since about 2017, and I think that's working out very well. For those of you not familiar, it's an opportunity, it's a pre-bail opportunity for individuals suffering from the opioid addiction. because of a gap between when an individual is arrested and when the court can intervene and provide treatment. So if the individual agrees to the program, then the court can get involved in providing treatment to the individual as they then.
Given how close we are to Kensington and how serious this problem is and how many people have died, that number is way too low. And I would submit to you that one part of the problem is that the county has decided to have a limited use of medication-assisted treatment, Vivitrol, which only works if you're clean. It helps you stay off, but it does not help you if you are still addicted. So if we have a broader use of medication-assisted treatment with Suboxone, for instance, even though some people don't like it because you may remain addicted to it, you have to keep using it, it would save lives. And for the parents of the people who have died, it's a must.
Thank you. All right, we'll next move to the fifth question. It will actually be for Stephanie Klein, followed by Beth Naughton Beck. Okay, putting you on the spot again.
It's okay. It's okay. Expected it.
Given that many residents distrust the judicial system, how would you promote transparency and systematic improvements to bail, sentencing, and probation? Describe the changes.
Well, I can tell you what I did as a magisterial district judge. My bail hearings were open to defense attorneys. In my court, and I think that if you spoke to lawyers who practiced in front of me, my court was a place where I welcomed people to resolve their conflicts, where I welcomed defendants to present their defense, I welcomed prosecutors, and I welcomed police to present their case. And I believe that courts are a place that are an oasis in our society, and right now, in our tumultuous times, are really an important part of democracy that is so crucial that our people have confidence in the courts, and we can only do that by electing judges who are fair, who are empathetic, and who have a record of giving everyone their fair shake in court.
Thank you. Beth Naughton Beck.
Thank you. I think that when approaching situations like that, open-mindedness, full disclosure, conversations with all the parties involved is critical. As a judge, you are required to follow the law, to be fair, to be impartial, but also to listen and to have conversations. I think people get scared and they think that they're not being heard and that their rights aren't being protected when they don't know what's going on. And I think it's the responsibility of a judge to make sure that that communication takes place so that the individuals who are being charged and their family members, as well as the attorneys, are all on the same page as to what's going on.
Thank you. Sorry for the microphone. The next question will be for Wendy Roberts, followed by Nusrat Rashid. What do you perceive as the greatest obstacles to justice, if any? I just want to take a moment to say, wow, you guys have done a great job with the questions.
Thank you. You haven't heard my answer to this yet. In my court, I try to be very cognizant of the fact that to some people, when you say, I'm sorry, you're going to have to come back another day, or you're going to have to take a day from work to go see the public defender, and then take another day to come back to my courtroom, you are putting not only that worker, but that family at risk for things as serious as not being able to feed your children. It is an obstacle that judges, I believe, need to be cognizant of. It is not a particular struggle for me personally if I missed a day of work, but for many, many people whose backgrounds are unknown to me, it is a struggle. So I think the greatest obstacle to justice would be if you're in front of a judiciary who is insensitive to the fact that there are lots of moving parts in families, and we need to do our best to deal with those fairly. Thank you.
Thank you. Nusrat Rashid?
In my opinion, the two greatest obstacles to justice have to do with the obstacles that are presented to ordinary people every single day of their lives. People do not have trust and confidence in the court. They mistrust the court because they've been mistreated. People don't mistrust the court and get upset with what goes on in the court process because they don't understand it. They get upset when they believe that they are being treated unfairly. And unfortunately, in the justice system in this country, there are groups of people that have been marginalized and mistreated, and we need to have judges sitting on the bench who are sensitive to that. Judges who are able to understand where people are coming from every day that they walk into the courtroom, for many people on the worst days of their lives. The other greatest obstacle to justice is a lack of balance and racial diversity on the bench. We need to have people on the bench who reflect the county. We need to look at the statistics of 56% women in this county and wonder why we only have 4 judges out of the 20 that sit there now. We need to look at the statistics of over 22% of the county is African American and why on the bench there are no African American judges. We need to have a relationship with the people. The court needs to reflect the county, and that's the greatest obstacle to justice.
Thank you. The next question will be for Rick Lowe, followed by George Dawson. What is your position on Marsy's Law?
I think it's very tough for issues as tough as that one, which is victims' rights, to be done by referendum. So I sort of come at this from feeling that it's unfortunate. One reason it's unfortunate is it's very tough to stand up and say, I'm against victims' rights. So there's not going to be people who are moving forward in any kind of, they're not going to be hearing from people on both sides. One problem with the law, as I understand it, with the proposal as I understand it, is that the person who is making an accusation you cannot seek information from them. So the accused may not be able to get all of its discovery, learn all it needs to from the accuser because of this law, and I find that troubling. Thank you.
Thank you. George Dawson?
Thank you. Victims' rights are very important, whether it's Marsy's Law or any other laws, and it's important that they stay abreast and informed about the process. But the problem is that the process has to be due process, and it has to be due process for everybody involved in the system. The accused as well, and Rick made that point that when you don't have all the evidence against you, when you don't have all the facts, it is hard to feel like you have gotten due process. So with the problem of trusting the court and trusting the system, there are some limitations on this, and I think it's a great idea to expand victims' rights, but we have to do that in a balanced approach that is fair to everybody and provides everybody due process.
Thank you. All right, the next question will be for Steve Gerber, followed by Kelly Eckel. There are many black males incarcerated, Delco prisons having the highest percent. What is your plan for prison reform?
Candidly, that's more of a question for the legislature and for the laws, for those who make the laws, not those who are supposed to follow the law. Mass incarceration is a real issue. I'm not trying to say it's not a real issue. I'm not trying to say that it's not something that needs to be addressed. It does need to be addressed, but there's a role for a common police court judge. There's a role for a state representative. There's a role for a state senator. There's a role for the governor. The mandatory sentencing that went into place throughout the country in the 1990s is flawed. It needs to be fixed, but it needs to be fixed by the legislature. It hamstrings a judge because a judge can't be empathetic, a judge can't listen to what's being before it. A judge's hands are tied by the law as to what they are permitted to do and not permitted to do, and notwithstanding what the evidence may be, when they listen to the parties, when they let the lawyers advocate for their case, and they listen to the lawyers, and then they try to follow the law.
Thank you. Kelly Eckel?
Yes, thank you very much. Two things. I agree with Steve that at some level, prison reform is up to the legislatures, and judges' hands are somewhat tied, but they're not completely tied. There are many instances where judges have discretion. They have to examine many factors. The whole person, a number of us talked about the whole person before. Judges need to roll up their sleeves and do the work of being a judge, taking into account everything. If there is a mandatory provision in the law that says the judge must apply this sentence, then yes, the judge has to apply that sentence. But often there is discretion. One other point, plan for prison reform. What is my plan for prison reform? I'm not sure, again, that judges have that role. I am aware, however, that recent developments on county council have the makeup of the prison board switched up to include additional lay people as well as members of the Board of Judges. So we can have a part in that as well.
Thank you. Okay, our next question will be for Nusrat Rashid and Steve Gerber. We're going back to the beginning. Please describe one instance in which you faced an ethical dilemma and how you solved it.
I represent a lot of individuals and families in crisis. And this isn't really so much of an ethical dilemma as it is being the type of attorney who doesn't let their emotions get in the way of giving their client the best advice. And that's what we need on the Board of Judges. We need lawyers who have the ability to understand, to listen, to know when it's right to be empathetic, to be compassionate. I've had many instances with clients who ask me, what would you do as a wife in this situation? What would you do as a mother? And I have to put those things to the side. So it's not so much an ethical dilemma as the ability to separate your own emotions, your own biases from the facts in front of you. And that's exactly what a trial judge has to do. And I have years, decades of experience being able to parcel out the things that I need to tell my client that are in their best interest, that will give them their rights under the law, that will allow them to have equal access to justice from whatever my emotional standpoint is. That's what a judge does. To be able to do that and to do it in the best way, you need to have experience working with individuals who need your help in the best way.
Steve Gerber?
Ethics are part of what it is that we do, and following the law, and facts are facts, whether they be good facts or bad facts. And as a civil litigator, sometimes you come across something that's a very bad fact. It's been asked for in discovery. You have to turn it over. Facts are facts. You can't hold something back, even if it's bad for your client, when it's discoverable and it's part of it, part of the case. When folks find themselves in the Court of Common Pleas, regardless of for what the reason is, criminal, civil, family dispute, what have you, life has thrown them a curveball. It's important that judges are empathetic and listen to the parties, let them have their say, let the lawyers do their job, let the lawyers advocate for their clients, and then apply the law properly. And ethics, that following that's all part of the ethics of it.
Thank you. Okay, next question will be for George Dawson, followed by Stephanie Klein. Do you support ethical reform for the judiciary to increase transparency and accountability? So a little different than the question asked before, because this is about supporting ethical reform for the judiciary.
Well, I guess we have the canons that dictate how we're supposed to act ethically, and they're very strict. They are very broad and the actions that it covers. And any lawyer will tell you that, you know, after you go to law school for 3 years and spend $100,000, you're going to make sure you follow those rules, because the last thing you want is to have your license pulled. A lot of times we have these things where we're asking about expanding rules when we have a lot of rules that are on the books, but they're just not being applied. Yes, I would, if there is any gaps in the ethics code that allows for anything that even looks unethical, I am fully supportive of addressing those. Whether it's expanding the rules to recuse someone based on a perceived bias or prejudice, or it is because of a donor that donated to someone's judicial campaign. If those rules need to be expanded, I'm all for doing anything that makes the courts look more transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Klein?
Before coming here tonight, I actually read through a good part of the rules of judicial conduct. And I was thinking about, in answering this question, thinking about my 18 years as a magisterial district judge. And I have to tell you, I'm not sure where that reform would be. Under the Constitution, our courts are open to members of the public. Anybody can come into a court at any time. And people, I would find from time to time, people sitting in the back of my court. It's up to the judge to treat the person fairly and to explain to the person who is being arrested what is going on. Explain the reason for the bail decision. Explain the reason for the traffic decision. And over 18 years as a judge, I did that. So judges should explain the courts and go out into the community and explain what courts do, and we have collectively done that. I personally have knocked on thousands of doors, and people have said to me, "You're running for judge? What do you do?" And we have explained that at doors, in forums, and that's one of the things that judges right now can do. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So our next question is going to be for Kelly Eckel, followed by Wendy Roberts. How do you deal with difficult people, including peers, lawyers, clients, or litigants?
Again, I listen. I don't prejudge. I try to find common ground. As an arbitrator, I listen. I let the party, if it's a party, or the attorney, if it's an attorney, explain their position. And then, as the decision maker, I explain why perhaps they're not correct. But it's an explanation so that they understand why their position is wrong. I think that is the most important thing for a judge or an arbitrator to do, is to not just make the party before them think that they had their day in court, they were heard, but they were truly understood. And so you can diffuse that difficult nature of the situation. Parties before you are going to have, they're not there because they're having a great day. It's a difficult situation.
Wendy Roberts?
Thank you. In my current position, I see many people who are literally having the worst, sometimes, moment of their life. They're brought to me immediately upon being arrested, and I'm about to tell them whether or not they're going home to their family or they're going to prison. I find that the respect you give is usually the respect that you get. It is my habit. If I feel that someone is struggling, it just happens to be my personality, I get sort of extra calm and quiet and let the person talk, and then explain to them what's happening. And I do believe that many people are unruly because they either expect to be disrespected because that's been their experience, or they don't understand what's going on. And just taking a moment to relax and diffuse that situation, I have found to work pretty beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't believe it, but we're at the last question before closing remarks. So thank you all. So our last question before we get to closing remarks will be for Beth, Naughton, Beck, and Rick Lowe. What is your vision for the future of our judicial system? What changes would you advocate for and why?
Thank you. My vision for the future would be a well-balanced, fair, and open judiciary. I think it's critically important that the judiciary expand its outreach into the community. I think they need to expand their communication with services that are available to litigants, to victims, to the accused. Communication goes a long way, and when people are confused and they don't understand what's going on, that's when people think that they're being aggrieved, and sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. So my goal, if elected, would be to work with my colleagues on the bench at doing more of an outreach program and raising the awareness of how the services can be best effectuated to the individuals that we're serving.
Rick Lowe?
I think the answer is quite simple. Look to the immediate future. The immediate future is vote for the four of us, the Democrats. Why is that? It's not just because we're Democrats and we want to take, get our share. It's because of our values and what it will do for the enhancing the court if people with our values are elected. Right now, because there's never been a Democrat elected to the Court of Common Pleas ever, there's a sense that there are insiders and there are outsiders. If we elect the four of us, it will give a sense to people all around the county that it's not a matter of who you know, but just getting a fair shake. So that's the best way to enhance the reputation of the court and every judge in it. We will also bring with us the strong conviction that to the extent, not only in the courtroom, where it really is nonpartisan, I agree with the comment, it's nonpartisan, but in the courthouse, the values of the judges matter when you are talking about what programs to implement. So bringing us in will help elevate the game of the entire courthouse.
All right, so thank you. I think it says a lot about our candidates here and that they understand rules, because we've done pretty well sticking to the rules. Lawyer myself, I get it. So I think we're going to wrap up here. We're going to start with the same way we began, from the Democrats, going from the middle, starting with Nusrat Rashid, out. However, you don't have a minute and a half, you have a minute, okay? So remember the yellow card, it's 30 minutes, and then where the red is stop. Please stop. So Nusrat Rashid.
Thank you, everybody, for coming and for listening so intently. I said a couple of minutes ago that upholding the rule of law is serious responsibility and that people are needed to do that serious work. I and my colleagues on the Democratic team are ready to do serious work. We have ideas on how to move justice forward, about how to enhance the quality of life and the administration of justice for all citizens of Delaware County. We have ideas for restorative and community-based justice, for family law mediation, for cross-collaboration between the juvenile delinquency and dependency divisions. We have ideas as to how to really make the court balanced. In order to make the court balanced and bring the balance that the citizens need, you need to have a balanced slate running, and our slate is balanced. We have an extremely diverse backgrounds, viewpoints, and experiences, and when you combine all of that together, we will produce an enhanced, diverse court of Common Pleas of Delaware County. That is our goal. That is what we are going to do if we are elected. We are going to bring change. Our resumes don't matter. What we want to do as judges, that's what matters.
Thank you. Stephanie Klein.
We are living in tumultuous times, and people have been looking to the courts as the one place, the one stable part of our democracy. Every day, people come to our state trial courts with problems. people who are charged with crimes, and expecting to encounter judges who can see them, who can listen to them, who will provide confidence in the courts, instill confidence in our democracy. Our group, yes, we are Democrats, but we bring values that will instill that confidence in the court and thus restore faith and confidence in our democracy. We are committed to that. We are committed to making sure that every single person is heard and every single person has their fair day in court. I know that I did that as 18 years as a judge, and each of my colleagues is committed as well. So we are asking you to support us on November 5th, each of us, our team. Thank you.
Right, we're up.
Yep. Great. Thank you again to the League and to everyone here. November 5th, we have an opportunity to change the balance, bring balance to the Court of Common Pleas. We've been knocking doors for the last 10 months, thousands of them. We've spoken to many, many people, listened to what they had to say. Democrats, Republicans, independents. The uniform comment, if I had to call one out, is that the people of Delaware County want the judges who are sitting there not only to bring to the bench their professional experience and qualifications, but they want those judges to represent the entire county, not just one portion of it. Our role as judges is to apply the law fairly and equally to all. I pledge to do that as a judge, as do my colleagues. But on November 5th, I ask that you vote for all four of us, for Kelly Eckel, Rick Lowe, Stephanie Klein, and Nusrat Rashid, to bring balance to the court, to the trial court of Delaware County. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. You can see from what the comments of the four of us, how closely knit we are, how important we all feel it is that all four of us get elected, how we feel that we have a mission that is larger than any one of us. This is not merely to get some cushy job. This is not merely to have people laugh at your jokes because you're a judge. This is serious business, and we mean to take it seriously and to do whatever we can to move forward with progress. If four of us are elected, we will have the greatest chance at a critical mass to keep finding solutions, whether they're here or somewhere else. Just because we did it in Delaware County a certain way for the last 100 years doesn't mean we have to keep doing it. In the courthouse, with programs, obviously in the courtroom, people are going to be treated fairly one by one, but in the courthouse, the four of us can make a difference. We're dedicated to that idea. Please vote for Rick Lowe, Kelly Eckel, Stephanie Klein, and Nusrat Rashid. Thank you very much.
Wait a minute. I think we're recharging the camera here.
Again, thank you for having me. We've heard comments that judges shouldn't prejudge, but at the same time, we're being told that vote for me because I'm a Democrat. And implicitly suggested in that is that current judges might prejudge a case based on political party. As I said previously, I've been a lawyer, litigator, and trial lawyer for 27 years. Never once has the party of the judge or the lawyers appearing before the judge ever come up. It's inappropriate. And to imply that that's a reason that a judge is fair or unfair, again, it's not appropriate. I doubt very, very much that when Stephanie Klein served her 18 years as a magisterial district judge, that she prejudged any case based on what the party of any of the litigants was. So I don't think that's appropriate. It's the job of a judge to be empathetic, to be impartial, to listen, to let the parties have their say, to let the lawyers do their job, and to follow the law.
Thank you for coming out tonight. And again, thanks to the League of Women Voters. We do need diversity on the bench, but it's not based on political party. Because I've never known the political party of any judge when I've gone to different courtrooms throughout the state. My values are not based on my party. My values are based on my upbringing. My values are based on my 52 years on this earth as an African-American male. My values are based on those experiences. People don't trust the system because they're walking into a system where no one looks like them. The prosecutor doesn't look like them, the defense attorney, the judge, and people in the jury. If you want diversity, we're all qualified up here. And we were deemed well qualified by the Bar Association's plebiscite. But it is our experiences that we have up there. People will trust a system that reflects the county that they live in. There's a third people of color in Delaware County, not a single one on the bench. It is a shame to have someone plead guilty to something because they didn't like the makeup of the jury. A little more diversity will give a little more transparency in their eyes. Thank you.
Wendy Roberts?
Thank you. I am asking that all of you and your friends and neighbors and family members, the people of Delaware County, consider the qualifications of each one of the 8 candidates for the Court of Common Pleas. I believe that our experiences as attorneys and those of us who have acted in a judicial role is very important and something worth consideration. I am not asking for your vote because I am a woman or because I am a Republican. I'm asking for your vote because I am qualified. I'm going to be fair and impartial as I am every day in my current role. I am respectful. I am compassionate. I am thoughtful. I believe that you will find some, if not all, of those qualities in each one of these 8 candidates. And it's going to be up to you to determine who you think is going to do the best job on the bench, regardless of any label. Thank you.
And last but not least, Beth, Naughton, Beck.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for having us here today. When electing a judge, voters should evaluate the qualifications, experience, and integrity of the candidate. The independence of the judiciary dictates that conversations about political affiliation, about political party, are not only irrelevant, they're not appropriate. I have extensive courtroom experience. I have been rated well qualified by the Delaware County Bar Association, been an active member for 25 years, and to receive that rating from my peers is a huge honor. That's something that all of my colleagues on this side of the table have received. I'm also a committed community servant, and I think connections with the community together with courtroom experience are critical to fairly representing the residents of Delaware County and by serving their needs as a judge for the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas. And for that reason, I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Now we can clap. I'm on here. I just want to end and thank, of course, Cabrini for having us here. And I think you've heard tonight gives us a little bit of a window, irrespective of party, about the candidates and the judicial system. I urge you all, please, if you're not a member already, please go to palwv.org and please be part of one of the largest nonpartisan grassroots organizations fighting to make sure our judiciary remains impartial and fair. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Wearing my comfy shoes as well. I'm glad she got accepted. This is the phone survey. Yes, please take one.